but the volumes are still driven by 32 inches. It's losing share to 42 and above.
What happened to dumb TVs? Like you can't go out and buy a non-smart TV anymore today.
AI, things start coming on the TVs as well.
Yeah. Do you see the death of the sub 10,000 rupee phone the same way we saw the 32-inch TVs now?
So Samsung had a good Q4 last year. Vivo has been doing well.
They have just, gone guns blazing, more at Apple.
Then Intel and AMD should be worried.
Massive 28% growth for both Dell and Acer.
But SmartRing as a category, I'm very gung-ho about personally. It's a challenging time for the smartwatch space.
Hey guys, welcome to our second episode of the 91 Mobiles and IDC podcast, where we discuss all the important happenings from the world of technology and also the data that actually matters to brands, which is published by IDC. And for those of you that are joining us for the first time, we at 91 Mobiles are a consumer technology website where we cover everything from smartphones to laptops, televisions, and home appliances. We have the third largest shopper audience after Flipkart and Amazon. And today I have with me, as always, for the past episodes, Navkendar from IDC. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Sameer. How have you been?
All good. How are you?
Very well. Thank you.
And for our audience that is watching us for the first time today, can you give us a little bit of history about who you are, what is IDC, and the numbers that you guys crunch?
Sure. So IDC stands for International Data Corporation. We're about 60 plus years old organization. Here we are based in Gurgaon. We have an office in Bangalore. What we do is, apart from the other consulting and the events business, the division which I'm part of is data and analytics, in which we size the market of the consumer devices, of the smart appliances, anything to do with smart devices for the time period gone by. So it can be a quarter, it can be last month. It can be a geography. Obviously, we do about 100 plus countries, but we do within the country, like in India, we do 50 cities, 100 cities of India as well for some of the categories. So we size the market, what's the growth, what are the trends, and then we forecast also for most of the categories for the next 5 years. So that's what we do.
Yes, and we are going to kick off with our first topic for this episode, which is smart TVs. And for those of you that remember from the last episode, we did have our first ever smart TV survey live. Thank you for those of you that participated in it. And we actually have published our results. And Navkendar, thank you so much for helping us with our first ever smart TV survey. And you wrote the forward also for it. And I have some very interesting findings actually from our survey and some data that IDC has published. So IDC says that the share of 55-inch TVs is now at 14% as of 2023, up from 10% in 2022. So large screens have grown. However, 32-inch remains the industry staple with 40% share. However, the interesting thing is that brands like Vivo, when I spoke to them, said that their smallest screen size is 42 inches and they want to stick out there.
Right.
And it actually reminded me, like when I was younger, 23-inch TVs was like, oh my God, it's such a big TV.
Right.
And they just died one day, right? Like you just didn't see 23-inch TVs anymore. And when will that happen to 32-inch TVs? Because while it is still a large market share, we see that the higher screen sizes has also grown considerably, right? So what do you think about that?
Right. So the multiple factors. 32 inches for a market like India still remains one of the largest categories, right? It is declining, but it will still remain a large part of the market for the next few years. And a few reasons for that is one of the cost. It hits a sweet spot of 10 to 15,000. Now, we have to see when 55 inches, 42 inches plus happens, even 55 inches. That's the lifestyle kind of choice people are making, right? They use one primary TV, which is in the living room or one of the master bedrooms. And when they replace that, they don't replace with a higher quality 32 inches. They still go for 55 inches. If they're upgrading from 32 inches from the master bedroom or their primary TV, so to say, because now there are multiple TVs at home, they go for the higher screen size. The secondary TV is still being bought by this. And at the retail shops also, 32 has replaced the 23 because of the cost of the panels is not so huge. So one is the price. Second is also in the household, in Indian household, we don't have many walls or even space where you can hang 42 inches plus, right? Yeah. Obviously, in urban areas, we might have place, but the volumes are still driven by 32 inches. It's losing share to 42 and above, might still remain till about a couple of years, till the panel prices. Still 55 inches, there is a price cap. Yeah, so that's how it is.
You've hit a very interesting point, which actually comes to my next question is price, right? People in India are still very price conscious, like
Right.
you say. And a few years ago, when Xiaomi introduced their first Mi TV4, which was this really slim 55-inch TV, and we saw the influx of so many budget brands, I genuinely felt like the big three, the Sony, LG, Samsung, would face some sort of a threat. But our survey found that Samsung, Sony, and LG make up 50% of the ownership share.
Right.
So my question to you, as the guys who read the data, is what happened to these big budget brands where Xiaomi was claiming big market share, and the VUs and the SPPL's brands, and we've seen so many brands come and go, right? So what happened to the budget brands?
Yeah, so interesting. You started with Indian consumers are price conscious. I would say we are the most value conscious consumers in the world. And value equation has many things. Pricing is one part, but then the trust is also a part. For example, one of the incumbents is Samsung. Samsung has been in India for 30 years.
Yeah.
And it's reflecting in the share of the smartphone and the performance of Samsung in the smartphone space as well. Some of the other categories as well. So 3 incumbents, which you said, they still hold about around 2/3 of the market in India. One of the large reasons is that TV purchase is not entirely online,
Yeah.
like smartphones has gone, right? While you might be spending more on a smartphone, you are more exposed to what goes on a smartphone. You're more used to how I can evaluate a smartphone. TV is an involved purchase in the household, right? You still want to see the panel. You still want to see your everyday broadcasts which can happen, and that's why you go to Chromas and
The
Reliance
Reliance
Digitals and
Have
Vijay
the wall
Sales,
of 20 TVs
LFRs,
right there.
which is a large format retail, where there you compare and there you do it. It might be cheaper than the phone which you're already in the pocket, but it's a more involved purchase, and that's why, which is where these 3 incumbents have been very strong offline. Their partnerships are huge with these, because that's why the large format retail is called large format, because you need large spaces for appliances, which includes the TV and the white goods and others. That's one of the reasons. Now,
Also, having recently purchased a TV, you can really bargain, especially when it's festive,
Exactly.
and
It
get like a
happens.
fantastic value, like
Yeah.
you said. So even if you're buying an expensive TV, that 20,000-30,000 rupees that you save is enough to buy a sound bar with
absolutely,
it.
absolutely.
So,
and the second part is that Xiaomi and some of the other players, Realme, OnePlus, has exited the TV market.
exactly, yeah.
They took the they wanted to take the learning from the smartphone market and really implement it here. It's slightly different. In Xiaomi's case, all credit to them actually. They have driven the smart TV revolution. They're still one of the largest players, but you can't only play on price, right? So it's like in the cars as well. When you go 10 lakh and below, there are other brands. When
Yeah.
10 lakh plus, you really don't go to those same brands. So the same thing is happening. As a secondary TV, people still are okay with Xiaomi's and others. But when you are talking about 50,000 plus, 55 inches plus, you go to Samsung and then LGs and others, because that's established trust and the display technology, the sound and other stuff.
But you actually picked one of the questions that I was going to ask you is the OnePlus exit from the TV space, because I still remember when OnePlus came out with their Q1 Pro with the soundbar sliding out of the TV, and they had the aesthetics, they had a pretty good panel. It was priced at about 1 lakh, which when it launched was fairly expensive, but it kind of showed the muscle to take on the Sonys and the Samsungs, that we can bring you a certain pedigree of quality. And then all of a sudden, next year onwards, it was budget, and then exit. So why did they exit? What happened according to you?
So not specifically on OnePlus, I would say that this extension to other categories is easier said than done. At least where you think there's an overlapping consumer. While all is good about smartphone plus 4 plus 7 kind of ecosystem you want to create, right? So wearables and tablets and PCs and these kind of stuff and accessories.
The Apple
and all
route,
stuff,
basically, yeah.
right? So you want to do that. But it's because in each of the categories, you're fighting different incumbents. Sony is very strong in the TV market. Sony is not in the phones.
Sony
is very
exited the phones.
Right?
Yeah.
Sony is very strong in the offline market, right?
Yeah.
Sony is not very strong even in the wearable space. But so you're opening different fronts, but then you have only that much of corpus and the attention which you can garner from the consumer, which I think is reflective of how OnePlus has, specifically on OnePlus, even in the phone business, they were and possibly still are they certainly were one of the strongest third contenders in the premium space in the market.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Before Nord happened.
Yeah.
But then they realized that that's not a sustainable business in a volume-driven market like India. That's where the Nord happened. They're doing brilliantly. They're doing well in the smartphone space. But then they realize now that they possibly might not be the third option, or those premium are not sustainable for them. So they're exiting those kind of businesses. I think specifically to OnePlus. I would say the distribution and the product pricing is one of the areas. Yeah.
I mean, the monitor was also pretty fantastic that they came out with. It was a budget monitor, and when they exited the business, it went on sale on Amazon. And for anyone that bought it, I think they're going to be pretty happy with it for as long as it
they had
works.
keyboards as well with Keychron, I think.
Yeah.
They've done a lot of
stuff. But the last most interesting thing, and this probably comes for us who were born probably in the 80s and maybe some kids in the 90s, was our survey said that 85% of people consider a smart TV very important. And it just got me thinking, what happened to dumb TVs? Like you can't go out and buy a non-smart TV anymore today.
Yeah, it's very tough. In the grey market, in a market like near Jama Masjid, near Old Delhi, you can still go and buy a dumb TV at 5,000-6,000 rupees and put any label on that. But that really doesn't serve the purpose, serve any purpose. And this started when, I would say not pandemic, even after when Jio happened, when we started getting so used to of cheap data, started consuming OTT on our phones.
Yeah.
We wanted to have the same OTT at our homes, right? Now, home broadband in India is abysmal, right? So what do? You started having those Chromecast and others, right? I think it's more to do with the OTT consumption and how our media habits have changed, which is why we need a connected TV. Now, we might not be using all the smart services from that. We use a few, Netflix and Amazon Prime and others. But I think it's coming from that. And since you're talking about smart and non-smart, even monitors are becoming smart now, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean,
so
LG
people are
and
asking those
Samsung.
same things in that. So I think it's a change in how consumer is consuming media, and they want and they're asking for those things.
But a follow-up to that would be, and this is only for someone who spent a little bit of time digging into the UI, is LG's WebOS, right? That is now available on other third-party TV manufacturers. Google has had maybe Sony as a big partner in the flagship space, but so many TVs are powered by Android TV. Now they're calling it Google TV. Samsung has its own Tizen operating system. And lately you see some ads pop up there, right? An ad is a great source of revenue. So is this also something that's driving the smart TV partnerships between the OS makers and the TV makers?
Good question. Not right now.
Not right now.
Indians infamously don't like paying, right? So
Yeah.
for subscription and others, all the publication, even though they've learned it the hard way.
Yeah.
You can see it, how many times a normal consumer has ads popping on the YouTube, right? Not many, people go for a premium content. So not right now, but that's one of the major parts. Because if your attention is on that, and that was the start with the phones as well, with pre-burnt apps and the ads popping up. But I think that's a good point. That's one of the avenues they will explore. Not right now, but that's obviously because India's market is huge.
Yeah, but there will come a time when you will have freemium or ad-driven operating systems.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Jio, even within the paid tier, you have to watch the ads. So we're already there.
Yeah.
And we're already seeing that happening there. I think Amazon Prime, they're about to do ad supported within the premium subscription also.
And this is something that's actually been happening a lot in the West. So it's going to gradually trickle down.
It will happen here.
Great. So any closing thoughts on the smartphone segment, or your thoughts on the future before we move to our next
Smart
topic?
TV.
Smart TV. Sorry, yes. Smartphones is next.
Yeah. So Smart TV, as I said, I mean, it's an interesting market. Now, obviously, we'll see the upgrades probably coming in when AI things start coming on the TVs as well.
Yeah.
So how they possibly, you can have the wallpapers and everything according to your mood of the day, your wall color and so on and so forth. That stuff will happening, and AI will start recommending you stuff more than the OS, which is already there.
Yeah.
And OS will obviously have integration of the AI. So that's interesting. I think a lot of new products will start coming in from next year onwards.
Yeah, that's great prediction, because I'm not sure if you've seen it. An old Bruce Willis movie called The Fifth Element, where he kind of watches TV in his bathroom on the mirror, and it's giving him the content that he wants to watch. So yeah, we've seen some of that at CES, but I think CES 25 is going to be an interesting space. So now we're going to move to smartphones. And Navkendar, I'm just going to read out some data that IDC has published. which says that the entry level, which is a sub $100 segment, declined by 14% year on year. The mid premium segment, which is $400 to $600 segment, declined by 46%. Premium segment, which is $600 to $800 phones, held a 2% share and declined by 21% in unit terms. And the super premium segment, which is $800 plus, grew the highest with 44% growth. So can you highlight on how we see these trends? Because I know in the past you've said that people hold on to their phones longer, and in the premium space, the margins are higher. So if you can just refresh this.
So the data which you just read out, if I convert it into INR, approximately below 8,000,
yeah,
the market has declined.
yeah,
Above 24,000 to about 60,000, the market has declined.
yeah,
Now, I would not read too much into 40 to 60,000 declining. That's reflective of the quarter as well and some of the launches as well. But anywhere around 40, 50,000, the market is growing, as we spoke last time as well. And one of the factors from that is Apple. Everyone wants to buy an iPhone in India. Not everybody can afford one. Apple has had a stellar last year. There are almost a crore, 10 million, near about 10 million phones in a year. This year, it's not impossible that they cross it by a healthy margin. But Samsung has been doing well there. Now, one of the things which has happened is 8 to 24,000 has always been the belly of the market in India. Now, why is that growing? Because people realized that I can't buy a good phone below 8,000 rupees, which is why below 8,000 is, we don't have great devices. I mean, you guys review the devices. We certainly don't have a 5G device below 8,000. And 8 to 24,000 is growing, that's why. Because when people are going into the market for 12,000 rupees phone, they certainly realize that phone is not good enough. They go to about 17, 18,000. That's a forced upgrade which is happening, or forced replacement. Otherwise, organic market is not growing. We are not getting new to feature phone. We new to smartphone user from the feature phone base, which is why less than 8,000 is declining, which is also being fueled by the second-hand market, which we can probably speak later as well.
yeah. So I was just coming to that, but 2 points. The first is, do you see the death of the sub 10,000 rupee phone the same way we saw the 32-inch TVs now is going to probably?
No. I mean, not in India.
Okay.
Certainly not in India. We will always have some people who will not be able to spend more than $100, $120.
Yeah.
Structurally, the market is not going to change. We will always have people who will have a voice-only use case. To that end, actually, feature phone market grew last quarter.
Oh.
What is that saying? That's saying because they're not able to buy a smartphone. They're okay to replace it with another feature phone. That should not be growing, right? Logically.
Yeah.
But that's not happening. So that means those upgrades are not happening. So it will not go down. The only factor is how industry and how the supply cost enables a phone at about 5,000-6,000 rupees, or if Indian government or establishment is concerned about that we have only less than 50% penetration of smartphones in India in 2024, that should be a cause of concern. But the only asterisk to that is that's still about 700 million people, which is equal to continents, which is equal to Europe and USA put together.
Yeah.
People are happy with that. If you're happy with that, then it's fine. But if we have to take it to 1 billion, then we certainly need to drop the prices with subsidy, or with some 4 or 3, online, or the telco or brands and the government come together and subsidize a device about 2,500 rupees or 3,000 rupees, so that a feature phone person can buy that phone. Otherwise, even without that, that market is not going away. Just that people are waiting for, or that they are buying from second-hand market.
Yeah.
They're not getting a 5G phone here. They're going to the market and buying a Redmi Note 9 at about 3,000, 4,000.
Which is a few years older device and still gets a job
and
done.
Android hardware ages well these days.
Yeah.
About 4 years plus is, if you keep it decently, 4 year plus Android hardware remains, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so you've actually touched upon the topic that I was going to talk about next, which is something you stated IDC will be doing in the future, is the refurbished smartphone market.
Yes.
And I have actually used a couple of refurbished smartphones, and if it is refurbished well, like you change the battery, the camera is working nicely, the touchscreen is clean, there are not too many scratches on it, or even if it's been replaced, you actually get a very good value for money proposition. You could even get a flagship grade phone at a slightly premium price, but at a much lower price than what you would if you went and bought that phone first hand. So first, let's break a couple of myths that people have about refurbished phones. Ki wo chalega nahi, or whether it's been refurbished properly, or about the warranty.
Right.
So what is your opinion about the consumer education here?
Before that, we will not call it refurbished. We probably call it a used device market.
Yeah.
And there's a difference there. Refurbished means it's going to official channel.
Yeah.
Somebody's cleaning the phone, polishing the phone.
Like a green dust used to
doing
do.
all the stuff.
Yeah.
That's only quarter of the market in India.
Okay.
75% of the market is unorganized. A person goes to a shop, says, I want to sell this as a device. Shopkeeper looks at it. He said, I want to give you this.
Yeah.
He adds some more money and buys a new phone. Right? This is normal happening. That is about 75% of the market. What refurbished Cashify's and Yantras and Flipkart Renew and all the stuff, they are refurbishing the phone. Some of them are refurbishing possibly, more so iPhones and OnePlus and others, because those are high value items and you can add on to it and then sell to the consumer. Those are getting refurbished. Otherwise, we want to call it the used device market. It's very difficult to even size it because many of it is happening peer-to-peer also.
Yeah.
Peer-to-peer means one peer-to-peer with a transaction, and secondly, hand-me-downs in the family also.
Yeah.
We give it to our house helps, our drivers, our grandparents, our kids.
Yeah.
Right? I know many families who the husband buys an iPhone. After 1 year, he gives it to the wife. After 1 year, wife gives it to the son or the daughter.
Yeah.
So those are also used devices. They would have gone out in the market and bought it, but they're not because that's being fed internally.
Yeah.
We believe if India does about 15 crore, 150 million new phones in a year, we believe it's easily about 3.5 million over and above 15 million. So about 3.5 crore.
Is of the used phone
Yeah,
segment.
35 million, 3.5 crore over and above this. Not entirely organized, but it's still being.
But you still have platforms like Facebook Marketplace and Quicker
Of
and
course,
OLX,
of
which
course,
so there is a way to kind of size what consumers are
Of
buying
course,
at.
that's
what
why we are
prices,
we are
so-
planning to size that. By September, we'll be out with. We're doing about 9 countries, and most of the models and most of the brands in those countries. So India is part because India is one of the largest markets. So by September, it'll be ready, and we'll talk more about it when it's ready.
Just thinking about my own personal experiences, I've sold, let's say, a fridge or an old phone or my 1080p Apple TV and I've sold it on OLX and found some great buyers out there, but there's a lot of fraud also that happens on these platforms. And I think you're probably going to encounter a very nice rabbit hole that you'll be tumbling down when people will come and say, oh, but this also happened and that also happened out there.
Absolutely. We're already hearing,
Yeah. So now speaking about the different brands as per the IDC data, right? It's very interesting to see a brand like Vivo also come up in the top 3 smartphone brands, right? It's Vivo, Samsung and Xiaomi in that order. But surprisingly, Samsung saw a 13% dip in market share. So is this something cyclic where Vivo's launched something new and hence its market share has grown?
See, one is cyclical for the market as a whole in that particular quarter or months. Second is also for the brand, if the previous quarter has been big, so the brand obviously we see a base effect also. So Samsung had a good Q4 last year, and that's why we're seeing that. Otherwise, it should not be a cause of worry. Vivo has been doing well.
Yeah.
So I think I would not say this can't change. The ranking can't change. The brands are quite close to each other in terms of ranking and the volumes. So this second half of the year is going to be very exciting. So that's why I don't think it's a sense of alarm for the Samsung.
Yeah, but
even Oppo, if you saw,
Yeah.
it did not grow too much. So
But the one that grew the most, where it was a surprising change, was Moto, which grew 110%. And we did see in the past couple of months, Moto dished out not only a large number of devices, but they were great at different price segments as well. So
Motorola we've seen doing well in. They're launching a phone a month, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah,
at least
thereabouts.
the past few months. But again, the story is behind the numbers. Again, the base effect. They do about 1 million to 1.5 million a quarter. That's about 5-6 million in a year. They plan to double it this year, which is going to be slightly challenging. Hopefully, they'll do that. So I think it's a base effect also. So if it's a Y-on-Y 110% growth.
Yes.
That means Q1 of 2023.
Yeah.
At 23, they started slightly slow, but they did well. So I think that's why you see the growth. Otherwise, the brand is doing well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So any other concluding thoughts in the smartphone space? Because I know Samsung is going to probably launch their next generation flip and fold.
Right.
Coming off, MWC, a lot of brands are going to focus on the new form factor as well. So is this the calm before the storm of some really great innovations we'll see in the later half of the year?
Certainly calm before the storm, because now we're entering the
Festive season also.
season.
Yeah.
One is the launch of the flip and the fold. where you can expect Samsung to go big on AI again
Yeah.
on these devices, and then September will be big again for iPhone 16. So I think and then the festive season starts. So I think it's going to be very important this season if the market has to grow this year.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's been decent first quarter. So hopefully the momentum goes away. Yeah.
Okay, now moving on to our next topic is going to be the PC and laptop space. And just so that everyone's aware, we are recording this podcast when Computex is still happening. So we may not be able to touch upon a lot of highlights that come out of Computex, but I think the biggest thing has already been announced, which is Qualcomm.
Yeah.
They have just, gone guns blazing more at Apple because they are on a different architecture than Intel and AMD, just to simplify it for our audience. But the fact that every big brand has multiple offerings with Qualcomm's chipset, even Microsoft has gone with Copilot Plus as, the marketing push for Copilot Plus on a Qualcomm-powered laptop. Even though Intel and AMD do have their AI chips, what is your opinion? Who should be afraid of this? Because the numbers there say that it may not be as powerful as what Apple is doing in the ARM space, which is okay. It's a first-generation product, but it's a fourth option. Apple ecosystem has the M chips, you have Intel, AMD, and now you have Qualcomm as well. So.
Yeah, so the timing for Qualcomm, obviously Qualcomm has been developing this to reach this stage for many years now.
Yeah. 5 years in the making is what people are saying.
Right, so as the AI revolution, so to say, starts, Qualcomm is a big stakeholder, and all credit to them, at least they're being spoken in the same breath as Intel, AMD, Apple, their own silicon, and Qualcomm. Now, I would not say, obviously everybody should be afraid of the competition. But I would say it's slightly early if we say that Intel and AMD should be really worried that Qualcomm will very quickly eat away the share. Now, Qualcomm has always had, since M1 was launched, 2020, always had that product as specifically MacBook Air even for the Surface, from Microsoft's point of view, always in the crosshairs that this is where they want to be,
go,
right?
yeah.
So that product works well for a normal average Joe consumer.
Yeah.
Now with AI and everything coming in, hopefully Qualcomm can translate some of the learning and a lot of success and expertise they have from the phones to here.
Yeah.
One of the things which Apple Silicon gave to the consumer versus Intel was battery backup.
Yeah.
And considering that so much is happening inside the machine now, when AI PC will have an NPU dedicated, plus a GPU and a CPU, if the battery backup is anything between 10-12 hours plus, then I have reached where I don't need to carry the charger when I'm carrying my laptop, which always used to be a problem for the consumer.
Yeah.
While you are making the product thinner,
Yeah.
if you're still carrying a charger for that, you can walk out of your home with a phone without the charger. We do that every day.
Yeah.
We can't do that with laptop. Not many have confidence, except if you have used some, M1 and M2 MacBook. So I would say it's still and secondly, most importantly, this is on the consumer side, right?
Yeah.
You have to, and obviously from AI point of view, they have to give the compelling use cases to them to pay extra for the AI PCs.
Yeah.
From a commercial point of view, the incumbent PC makers plus Windows, Microsoft plus Intel have very strong partnership with the enterprises.
Yeah.
So Qualcomm at some point, to make real dent, has to drive the volumes, has to start doing that as well.
Yeah.
That'll take some time because those partnerships are very huge and deep and developed in the past 1 or 2 decades. Many of the companies globally are on one brand for many, many years. And that's how the use case is. If Qualcomm is able to do all that in the next few years, I think then Intel and AMD should be worried. Intel has taken a hit anyway when Apple Silicon was launched, when Apple moved away from Intel. So Intel will be worried, but immediately I don't see a major threat right now.
But, we've seen this happen a couple of times. I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago where AMD's server grade processors were ready and Intel delayed theirs and AMD took a little bit away of the market share away from people that needed to upgrade their servers for, efficiency, logistics, whatever other reasons, right? And then you go a little back further, there was this little company called BlackBerry, which was the businessman's phone. Right. And then all of a sudden, BlackBerries were replaced by iPhones for the sheer factor of evolution, security. The BBM feature was kind of lost in the features that the iPhone gave out. Will we see something similar in the B2B space?
I don't think so, because I think BlackBerry's case was slightly different. They were more complacent and more, arrogant. They did not see. We have seen that locally as well. I mean, Nokia's, and they did not see the dual SIM and the triple SIM revolution when it started. The Indian Indian brands did not see the Chinese onslaught when it was quite visible. I don't think Intel is aware of that. I think it's going to play out very, very nicely. And at the end of the day, consumer and the enterprises will be the winners, because they'll have a lot to choose from, right? So from a consumer's point of view, you can choose a nice machine which lasts for 10-12 hours, or you want a powerful machine, or which can work best with the Windows. So I think a lot of
the consumer is spoiled for choice. I mean, you could have a gaming machine if you want that could still work with at least 6 to 8 hours of battery life, because you can switch from the dedicated GPU and stuff. But I am honestly, personally, still waiting for some big shakes to happen, right? Like Xerox invented the mouse and Apple stole it. Apple invented the operating system and Windows stole it. We haven't seen that level of craziness happen in tech in the past almost decade, I would say. You know?
So AI is going to answer some of the questions.
Yeah.
What are those questions? We don't know right now. We don't even know the questions.
Yeah.
But some of the answers will probably come before the questions, and then we realize that I did not know that this can be done.
Yeah.
I mean, yesterday I was reading somewhere, a lady posted that I don't want my AI to do my art and writing.
Yeah, I wanted to do the chores so I can do the art and the writing.
I want to do my dishes and the wash my clothes so I can do my art and other stuff. So I think those are the kind of the things which are going to be very interesting from an AI's point of view. But AI will answer those questions. AI is certainly transformative. It's not going to be incremental, even from our definition point of view.
So I think the person who made the post needs to watch this little movie which stars Will Smith called I, Robot, where robots are made to do the chores. And I'm not going to spoil the rest of the movie. It's a brilliant movie. I have some really fantastic references for movies with AI. It's just incredible as to what it can do. But moving on from that is a very interesting thing, because this is a space that I have recently found a little bit of interest to dabble in. But IDC's report says that the desktop and workstation category grew by 10.1% year on year and 2.7% respectively. And notebooks declined by 1.7% year on year. And just, being 5-6 people at home, family, passing the laptop, which can drop and things can happen. Even I've been dabbling in maybe an all-in-one PC like what Apple offers, or even Dell and HP offer, or building a small kind of a gaming PC because I have kids and, I want them to get into Minecraft at some point. So I know you have a bigger B2B impact on this, but can you shed light on both the sides from B2B, and is PC coming back in B2C?
So you already answered the question. The answer is no. Consumer desktop, it's still a very niche thing. Gamers, as you mentioned, or a specific work from home or a creator's use case,
editors and stuff.
Consumer market is still largely notebook driven. People buy desktops, but this trend is basically one, notebooks declined because enterprise orders were not there. There is still some delayed decision making in the purchase from major enterprises, including and not limited to IT, ITS, big GCCs which we have, Infosys, Wipro, and everyone. And secondly, the growth of desktop and workstation, that's because before the elections, the government orders had to get matured.
Okay.
So these are some of those double clicks which are important to know. So some of the orders came in from the government because the budget gets lapsed in the central schemes because the new government is coming in. So a lot of purchase happened there. And that's why you see that.
Okay, so it's more of a government plus enterprise-driven thing. Moving over to the brands that were successful. So the top 5 brands have shuffled a little bit from last we spoke. Now it's HP, Dell, Acer, Lenovo, and Asus. So I think Acer has kind of jumped a few spots, coming in the top 3 now. Massive 28% growth for both Dell and Acer. Acer is now number 3, like I said. And, how do you think this happened? Because when I've spoken to a lot of these brands, Acer very recently opened their 200th offline store, which sounds big, but it doesn't sound big when I say that Dell has 600 stores in 400 cities, right? So from a consumer plus business space, how is the
So
shuffle
Dell
happened?
has been doing well because they have offline presence, right? PC market is not entirely online, unlike phones. Acer does well in the government orders.
Yeah. So that's where the jump has
Yeah,
come.
that's why the jump. But at the same time, they have been online heavy, but now they've realized that PC. See, something has happened in the past 3-4 years since pandemic. While we're not a multi-device market as a nation, we don't have many people who use a phone, tablet, laptops, wearable, all four. Outside urban phenomenon, I mean, urban cities is not a phenomenon, right? So there are not more than 20 crore PCs in India,
Yeah.
including enterprises, right? Including people like us. So, but something has happened in the past 3-4 years in the consumer mindset that use cases of PCs have become more clearer, that I need a machine which doesn't die on me when I want to do something, possibly a private consumption device as well,
Yeah.
and slightly more powerful. Some people can do gaming, but better graphics, better touch screens and other stuff as well. And that's why many of the people who dusted their PCs which are lying around 2020, when suddenly everybody wanted a laptop and they're not available,
Yeah.
have to refresh now.
Yeah.
So people are walking out in the stores now and asking to see the machines and others. And that's why everybody's realized that offline is important. So Acer is expanding into offline now. We will see that happening. But otherwise, the growth has come from a lot of the government and other orders.
Okay, now we're going to move on to the final segment of the podcast. And Navkendar, this is your favorite segment. And I've always seen you wear some really fantastic wearables. But today you have no smart rings.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised no smartwatch
No
either.
watch.
So what happened? Did the battery die?
Yeah, the battery died on my Apple Watch. And I took off my smart ring while having bath and I forgot to put it on. But yeah, it's my favorite, one of the favorite categories.
But how has your experience been? Because you have been at the forefront of the conversations between you and me of completely advocating for wearables, and I have been the pessimist about not wanting to move on to them. How has your experience been?
Yeah, so I like this as a category because not many brands have been able to meaningfully give us a device which complements our phone, apart from some of the Wear OS watches and certainly Apple Watch, and possibly my personal preference, the best out of that is Apple Watch, and I'm actually using an iPhone because I want to watch use the Apple Watch.
Yeah. My Apple Watch just died during this conversation. I forgot to charge it last night.
Yeah, that's
so
the
that
gung-ho with. That's why I got myself an Ultra. At least it lasts for 3 days.
Yeah.
But very expensive. But smart ring is as a category I'm very gung-ho about personally, and we at IDC also tracking it. It's gaining momentum in India, about 60,000-70,000 units in the last quarter. Ultra Human is the leader here. Less than half of the market is with it, and then some of the other players also have.
And this is without the Samsung Ring coming in, which is
Yes,
like the
this
biggest,
is
most
before
anticipated
Samsung,
one.
which should happen in the Galaxy Unpacked.
Yeah.
In Paris, along with the Fold and the Flip. I believe some of the fitness use cases will move out of there, and I like this. I don't take off my ring except when I'm in the washroom, because it's non-intrusive. There's no haptic, there is no display. It just does its job decently well. I don't have any other way to measure it or compare it with some of the things which it does, but I think ring is something which we should be excited about. One, because our wrist is already taken by either a smartwatch or an analog watch, and many of the people don't wear a smartwatch because they don't want to take off their analog watch. And we have 10 fingers, not all are occupied. This can certainly blend in as one of the jewelry items and still does its job.
Yeah.
So I think with Samsung entering the space, we should look forward, and there will be good innovation in the development in the next 1 year, where hopefully we don't see a display on the ring, but I'm sure that's going to happen, as it always does.
A lot of Lord of the Rings fans are just going to have the Elvish writing just
all
going
those
all
things
around
will
the
happen.
display.
All those things will happen. So, yeah.
No, but another interesting thing you pointed out when we were speaking a couple of months ago is that a particular wearable launched in India and there was no BIS on the box. And that's something I honestly never paid a lot of attention to, but you brought that to my attention. So can you just highlight for our listeners what is it?
We have investigated this a bit, and it's slightly confusing also. I mean, sell any electronic device in India, it has to run through the BIS certification, right? All the phones go through it, all the electronic devices. Now, this device on the box did not have any BIS certification. Now, a few reasons. One, at the very lower end of the smartwatch market, if you go to markets like Manish Market in Bombay, you go to Gafar Market here, you go to other markets in other cities, you see a lot of 300, 400 rupees for foreign audience, about $5, $6. Ultra watch clone with about 5-4 spare straps. Now, these are appealing to the first-time smartwatch users.
Yeah.
And these are pure distributor-driven. They just on the phone get the order from China. These are called white labeled.
Yeah.
Right. There's no brand on it. It's just Ultra 2, Ultra 3, even Ultra 5. We have seen smartwatch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
$5, $6 rupee. They can't afford. They don't care about the BIS, and it's being sold.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the radiation levels and everything else will be bad. And that's one of the reasons. Second is, we also investigated supposedly, and we want to, I'll put an asterisk to it, we didn't want to know the legalities of it. Supposedly, Indian BIS certification right now structure doesn't have anything for the smart rings.
Okay.
So I've seen some of the rings coming in without BIS or under smartwatch. Possibly government will be made aware of it, and we'll have a ring as a category under the BIS. That will start happening. But those are the categories. But yeah, I mean, whenever you buy a watch, please, on the box, you must look for the BIS certification. There is always, behind that white label which you have, it's all the model details, there's always a BIS stuff. So that means it's a trusted, they've gone through all the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I mean, moving on to the next point, which is the price of these wearables, right? Be it the rings also, or even smartwatches today, are fairly affordable,
Right.
From a lot of brands. But the most interesting thing that I read in the IDC report, which says that smartwatch shipment declined for the first time since 4 quarters of 2018 by 7.3% year on year. But it's still to 9.6 million units.
Yeah.
So is there a
So
saturation?
it's smartwatch as a category has had a great run in the past 4 years, 3-4 years.
I mean, even the pandemic didn't slow it down.
Yeah. So, but now it's hitting a ceiling. I think the industry grossly overestimated the number of risks they can capture from the smartphone user space. I mean, we have about little less than 70 crore smartphone users in India.
Yeah.
They thought that 40-50 crore of those will use a smartwatch also, which can complement the phone. It doesn't happen like that in India. As I said, not a multi-device market. Many of the consumers don't want to use a smartwatch because they don't want another device to charge every day,
Yeah.
or even after 2 days.
Yeah.
They don't know why they need it. For fitness conscious, either they go to the Garmin's and others, or they buy a smart band. Step counter is available in most of the phones now these days.
Yeah.
So I think that they are hitting a ceiling for the smartwatch. First two smartwatch buyers are coming from that segment, which I told you earlier.
Yeah.
Very cheap watches.
Yeah.
And this is a race to the bottom. Now we have watches from established brands like Noise and Boat and everyone at 1,000, 1,500
Yeah.
rupees. But that's also not able to attract. So I think it's a challenging time for the smartwatch space. We have, I'll not say maxed out, but it'll be difficult to grow.
And here I was thinking that, we see some people carrying two flagship phones, like, no, I have an iPhone and a Samsung, or something that's even in more budget space. And here my mind went, we'll have 4 smart rings on someone's hands and 2 smartwatches, one on each for different reasons, but that's not happening.
I would say ring can still happen. We have 10 fingers. 2 watches on both the wrists looks funny.
Yeah.
Plain funny, right?
I mean, we have a lot of reviewers who are doing, and they're like, no, this
Yeah, we
counted.
do that. We
So
do that.
you have, like, in our
course.
field of work, we would do
Of
it,
course.
but I'm still waiting to see someone who says, no, this is my Fitbit tracker, this is my Garmin for my heart rate, this is my Apple Watch in case I fall down, and ye Papa ki ghadi hai analog wali, so like the Bappi Lahiri look.
It looks crazy, yeah.
Yeah. Now moving on to wearables, while we talk a lot about smartwatches and rings, we also have TWS and audio devices as well. And top 5 vendors of TWS, according to IDC, are pretty standard what you'd expect, because they are more impulse buy brands, in my opinion. That's Boat, Noise, Firebolt, Bolt, and Oppo, surprisingly.
Yeah.
And I think Oppo is kind of an outlier out here because it's one of those brands you associate more with phones.
Yeah.
I personally associate Oppo with a Blu-ray player because they were one of the first brands to actually make one of the best Blu-ray players. So for those of you that are interested in home entertainment, please go and research the Oppo 203, which was that player was called. It was a fantastic Blu-ray player. I don't think it's available anymore.
Yeah.
But a lot of impulse buy brands out here except Oppo. Can you shed light on what's happening here?
Yeah, so out of the wearable categories, one is a wristwear, which we spoke about, and then is a airwear we call it. TWC is doing well there. One of the things is for most of the people, it's almost a necessity now, right? So either you hear music or you consume content on the go, in the metros, in the cab, otherwise, or you take calls. And many of the people, one bud stops working. I lose one of the pieces, you left or right, and then I have to replace that. So I think to that extent, and many people have multiple of these.
Yeah.
One for the sound, because they're cheap, right? So
Yeah.
one for the sound, another one for the calls, so that all the battery is good, but at least one or two they have on their person. So this market is doing okay. It has never had an exponential growth.
Yeah.
It keeps on growing at good tick, and we believe this will keep on happening. The most innovation which can be done at those price points, ANC, ENC, good designs, good packaging, battery life,
Dolby Atmos
is almost done. Dolby
Yeah.
Atmos is almost done. We don't see many more innovations happening, and obviously there can be bone induction and others, but then the
Yeah.
prices go up.
Yeah.
But at these democratized price points, these are the most innovation, and this market we don't see going down because there's a lot of replacement happening, a lot of gifting happens in this.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's moved from a lifestyle to this. Lifestyle is with a wristwear. This has moved from lifestyle to necessity now.
Yeah, but also, I mean, if you will look at the Sonys and the Boses and the Sennheisers even Jabra at the premium price point are still innovating with new chips and better sound quality
Sure,
and stuff like that.
absolutely.
But that really isn't trickling down so much to the budget spaces. Like, 4K TV was first 55 inch and above. Now you get 4K TVs at the smallest screen size available, 43 inches as well. Plus the better technology is trickling down. I mean, maybe a OnePlus will do something innovative or an Oppo will do something different.
No, so Oppo and OnePlus
Yeah.
have done well in their 10,000, 7,000,
Yeah.
8,000. They've had some good products.
innovation.
Even from Boat and others, their products are great. There's no doubt about it. For Indian palette,
Yeah.
the kind of the music we listen to, more thump and the more the bass.
More the bass, yeah.
It's nice, and the quality is also decent. Just that it's a product which can be which is not. We listen to music so much on the go. We watch videos,
Podcast,
movies,
listen
another
to this podcast, yeah.
So I think that's why it's a necessity product.
Yeah, so I mean, my only thing again, drawing inspiration from fiction and also in the fact that we are living in this AI world. Again, there's this movie called Her, where you have this beautiful voice in your head. And do you think AI in wearables, in audio, is going to be something we'll see down the line?
Interesting
Assistant
that you mentioned
right
that.
there.
No, interesting that you mentioned that. Now, I firmly believe personally, we've not had any research on that. I think airwear will possibly be the best avenue for the AI which can be available to us outside the phone.
Yeah.
Why I'm saying that? I'm saying all the criticism of Rabbit and Human.
The Humane Pin, yeah.
That's a device which is outside the phone. I believe we should keep an eye out for that. These some of these maybe phone brands. Apart from the glasses, I think this as a product is already sold to us.
Yeah.
As a category. I think a lot of AI can happen on this.
Yeah.
We can possibly do all the use cases which if we don't need the phone to take out of the pocket, which is what
Yeah.
Humane and everyone said, right?
Yeah.
Why not do it with this? I personally believe that's going to be interesting. Another year or so, we would start seeing a lot of those use cases built in the TWSs.
Yeah, we already have the rudimentary use cases, right? Like long press or double tap to bring
Absolutely.
up your Google Assistant.
But
natively built
It will
in.
start happening.
Yeah.
I think it will happen on this because Google is going to be big one.
Yeah.
In AI
Overall,
race, right?
yes.
And why not this? And when Google Assistant can do that, we can put Gemini and Copilot and everything here, right? So
Yeah. There's a very interesting episode of Black Mirror where they wear contact
Yeah, I saw
lenses with AI where you can record everything and go back in the past. Again, a great show for those of you that want to delve into science fiction, especially with AI. Black Mirror is the dark side of AI.
And get scared to the wits also.
Yes, you will probably stop watching YouTube and get rid of your phone after that one. Yes, the Boston Dynamics robot comes to mind again with Black Mirror, but I think I'm delving into fiction more now is because those were all the questions and topics that I had, Navkendar. Anything else you want to highlight that I may have missed, maybe from IDC's research or your personal thoughts on what's happening?
No, I think we covered most of the things. Next time going to be very exciting. On the next topic, we'll talk about more on the possibly AI and on a used device stuff as well. So looking forward to it.
Absolutely, and thank you so much everyone for joining us for this episode. Our next survey, which is a smartphone survey, could be live by the time you are watching this, so you can check out the link in the description in our YouTube video. If you're listening on Spotify or any other podcast platform, please come over to our YouTube channel to participate in the survey. And if you're watching this a little later, you may just see the results of that smartphone survey, something we may pick up in the discussion on the next episode. Thank you so much everyone for joining me. Thank you, Navkendar, for this.
Thanks, Sameer. My pleasure.
And we will catch you in the next episode. It's goodbye for now.